Want to know what the first thing I do with the zero adjuster is? I adjust it. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I actually adjust the zero adjuster. No, I'm being serious. And you know what? I completely glossed over one of the coolest aspects that Daiwa's never even brought up in regards to something that's fairly unique, and I can only say I've seen it on a booster spool from them. This little rubber floppy washer here, right? And this little O-ring on the spool shaft. So another thing that's cool, and somebody mentioned the other day in my community tab that there's a maintenance port on the Zillion. This is just a somewhat flimsy, weight-saving piece of plastic. There is absolutely no negative to this, only positive in weight reduction. And just, you know, so I can show you guys, here's a Shimano. This is a Talica. You can see this thing's seen some shit. Probably saw 100 tuna over 100 pounds and countless tuna under 100 pounds. And this portion right here, it's literally just a thin piece of metal. It's just a cover. It serves no purpose other than to keep your finger out of there, to allow drainage while keeping big debris out. And that's it. There's so, you know, the gentleman that mentioned that, this is your maintenance port. It's just a floppy cover. Gentlemen, ladies, anyone in between, I welcome you all. And today we'll be placing this cardboard box that contains a widget gently on the table, as we don't want to trigger those that are easily offended by me throwing fishing reels around the table, because they're really something more than just a widget in a box made by a company trying to take your money. So, with all that being said, we're going to be going over the brand spanking new Daiwa Zillion SV TW. This is a 5.5 to 1 gear ratio. This is the new 2021 reel. And yeah, if you guys just want the abbreviated version, this is a must-have reel. I don't say that often. If you want a spectacular bait casting reel, look no further. The Zillion SV TW. That's going to debut very shortly in the USA with a brass gear made in Thailand, 350 bucks, all that kind of good jazz. This is the JDM version, which is, depending on where you get it, I think I paid $320 shipped. It's got the aluminum gear, and it's made in Japan. Either way, this thing in this white box rivals the best from Shimano. This is the Bantam. This is a spectacular reel, very similar to the Metanium, just a little bit heavier, a little bit different arrangement and location for the level wind, and a brass gear. Spectacular reel. One of the most refined reels Shimano has ever made to date. We'll be comparing it to this because they're priced exactly the same, and they're made pretty much essentially out of the same components. So we'll set that aside gently, and let's go ahead and crack the box. But before we do, we have to do some reading. So if you look on the side of the box and compare it to the new Steez Limited, you'll see that they rearranged some of the marketing terms. They're not in the same order. Very peculiar. Now, in addition to that, the Steez, right? This is a $600 plus limited edition SV TW Steez. It comes with a booster spool that they slapped all sorts of cool stuff on the side of the box, which we kind of found for the most part was just marketing stuff. They have a metal armed housing on the Steez, right? But they have a hyper armed housing on the Zillion. I don't even know where to go with that. Was there a translation? Did they just put stuff into Google and it came out two different times? I don't know. But let's go ahead and crack the box. Now, I've already put time on this reel. I filmed the video, I filmed the teardown and all that kind of stuff. I didn't like the way it turned out. I filmed it again, and wouldn't you know, I had an issue with my external hard drive, and it wouldn't, it wouldn't work with my computer. When you deal with high bit rate and huge video files, 50, 60, 70, 80 gigabytes, it's easier to work in the video editor off the main hard drive, and that failed, so I lost all that footage. So I'm doing it again for the third time, and in the meantime, I've actually put some time on this reel, and as I mentioned before, I think this might be Daiwa's best all-around freshwater baitcaster that they've ever made. I can't really comment on its saltwater capabilities as of yet. And for me personally, I'm not the kind of guy that uses this style of reel. I'm more of a guy that's going to be using an Alexa 300, 400, Tranks 300, 400, Abu Revo Beast 40, 13 Fisherman Concept Z3, Tranks 500. All the larger scale, the bigger reels is what I generally prefer to use in the salt, because I'm casting for distance, I'm using heavier braid, and I'm not just, you know, dropping down for fluke and inshore fish. So I'm in New Jersey. I don't have real inshore fish that I'm casting to like you would down with redfish in Texas and, you know, the Gulf Coast and that kind of stuff. So we're going to be talking about this reel from the perspective of freshwater fishing only. And hopefully I can give you guys an accurate enough representation of this reel after putting about 30 hours on it. So let's go ahead and take an up-close look. And in my opinion, it's one of Daiwa's best looking reels. It's a glossy silver. Some schmoo on there, is it a scratch? It's a glossy silver, but it's kind of like a saturated flat, very even, not much metallic flake in it, compared to something like the Steez, where there's a ton of flake. And yeah, when you compare it side by side to the Bantam, which is a very compact reel from Shimano, and you can really see right away that they're very close to one another in overall height. And depending on the angle that you look at it from, they look remarkably similar. They really do. And, you know, it depends on where you're coming from, but you can call this the Aldebantanium or the Aldebatillion, the Zildebaran, because it looks like kind of like an Aldebaran. I mean, that's the Aldebaran, right? Which one's the Shimano? Which one's the Daiwa? Crazy, right? Look at that. Figured I'd throw it in there. So, what do we have here? We have an all-around baitcaster that comes with their, you know, 14-pound, 80-yard pound test capacity, all-around bass baitcasting reel. The SV spool that it comes equipped with is a variant of the SV spool that was found in the Steez SV TW and the previous Zillion. It's an excellent all-around spool. However, in this iteration, they equipped it with a second spring on the outside that forces that inductor cup, that rotor, out of the magnetic field more aggressively, I think is the best way to put it. And I am finding I can't find much of a difference in casting performance, to be quite honest with you guys. Using long distance casting baits like these guys here. Here's a Lucky Craft Wander Reach, which is a heavier version of the standard 80. You can bomb these baits. And throwing 20-pound braid, and these spools are interchangeable between the Steez and the Zillion. So this is 20-pound, 16-strand Gossin, one of the best braids ever made. And it's also worn in and broken in from being fished for a full season on another reel. It's still like brand new. Whether it's this line, whether it's 30-pound Guggen, I even threw some 20-pound Power Pro Super Slick and Onyx. I even threw some Maxima 10-pound, the Maxima 8, which is another excellent braid. Just didn't notice much going back and forth, flip-flopping spools, all that kind of jazz. Didn't really notice much. And I think, and I mentioned it in my YouTube community page, where there's something to be said about the slingshot effect. If you have a monofilament leader or fluorocarbon leader or a mainline that consists of the stretchy stuff, is like what I call it. And when you're fishing straight braid, not only does it have very little stretch, the rebound and the recovery of that, once you do get that minimal stretch, which does come with braid, there is a little bit of stretch, a little bit of give, it doesn't snap back. Now, when you have that initial snap and recoil, when you let go of that thumb bar and you give it a rip and you let go, when the spool is catching up to the lure in terms of when you release, all of a sudden there's that stretch, whether it's 6 inches or 4 inches, depending on how hard you gave a rip. It's literally like a slingshot, and it's going to send that spool into overdrive. And I believe if you're fishing stretchy lines other than straight braid, you'll see a bigger benefit with this than if you did straight braid. I'll put more time on it. Obviously, I'm going to be fishing this reel quite a bit. It's a wonderful reel. It's quickly becoming my favorite reel of all time, which is kind of saying something since I've only just started fishing it and I really haven't put a single fish on it. And I hate making those, hey, you got to go out and get this based on nothing other than me just throwing in, you know, whatever. But it just feels so damn good. I mean, I like the feel of this reel better than my previous all-time favorite, which is the Steez SV TWS. I've fished the crap out of these reels for years. Not even an ounce of an issue. Not even a remote squeak. Nothing out of place. They're still super smooth. But one thing that the Zillion does better, that hollow resonance that you get out of the majority of Daiwa reels. They're super smooth. They're super refined. But when you turn the handle, whether it's on the bench or under load, whether it's the big squishy rubber knobs, the septom knobs, whatever they're using on the handle knobs that absorb some of that, you don't get any of that resonance feeling. It's not the gears, it's just everything all together combined. That Shimano's generally have that, I don't know, that you take a stick of butter and you just run your finger across it. That's what a Shimano feels like. Where a Daiwa, you get that sensation, only there's like a resonance coming out of it that you can kind of feel and kind of hear at the same time. I don't know how to describe it. I see people call it connected. I don't know what connected means. Hollow, maybe, but there's like a resonance that you feel with Daiwa reels that you don't get out of some of the higher end Shimanos. And I think this might be, and that includes even the Depths DRZ, the Daiwa, what is it, the Z2020. I've had them all. I've had a lot of the high-end Daiwa stuff, and it's present in all of them. This is the first time ever that I can recall that it's not in one of the baitcasters. So they did something different in this, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can find out what exactly it was that they did. So we're going to crack this bad boy. Let's see, we're up here today with the camera. And we got it on the second try. Third try, fourth try. So yeah, I'm impressed so far with this reel. If you're looking for a longer casting reel, what I would suggest, I don't know what I would suggest, because I don't have casting distance issues with the SV spooled Daiwa reels. I just don't. They cast superbly for me. You know, get down into the number 4 and 5 setting on the brake dial, and you will see just how long that carry truly is. I found that on this specific reel, whether it be the Zillion or the Steez, casting those Lucky Craft Wanderers, which are a very aerodynamic bait, and they cast very well because they're heavy for their size. They don't tend to tumble. They stay straight in the air. Oddly enough, I found the furthest distance I was able to cast was with the brake setting at 4, a very ginger, slow cast. Literally no muscle at all, which was weird. And at a high trajectory, which is when you start off aiming at a high trajectory, it's tough to really lean into a bait at a low brake setting. And I was surprised that that's, you know, how I was able to cast the furthest distance with it. Now again, it was also 34 degrees. I checked the temperature before I left. The lubricant in the bearings is as it is out of the box. And I can definitely tell you when you're in cold weather like that, the lubricant's going to get a little bit heavy, and certain things don't respond as they normally do if there was either less lubricant or a freer flowing lubricant, which 99% of the time I purge all my spool bearings before I fish them, because I don't want there to be any drag outside of the brake and the line or the arbor diameter decreasing as line is being paid out on a cast. And one of the things I noticed about this reel is it claims 8 bearings versus 12 on the Steez. So I already went inside the handle knobs. There's 1 bearing per knob versus 2 per knob on the Steez. And you know what? That's one of the reasons why it's always difficult to do these after the initial. I completely glossed over the Clicky Drag. Super excited to see that in an all-around baitcaster from Daiwa in an affordable price range. This is going to be half the price of the Steez CT70 when it hits the USA. And it's got the Clicky Drag. I'm happy just with that. The fact that it's as smooth as it is a major bonus. Guys, when I had ordered the 5.5 to 1, which is actually what I wanted. I prefer slower reels. I really do. And maybe it's just because I'm old school, and maybe it's because my zombie cadence when I'm just casting and retrieving like a zombie, not focusing on really what I'm doing. My natural cadence is to bring it along a little bit quicker. Having that slower gear ratio makes me a better fisherman. At least I find that way. And I've said that many times in my past videos. So I was expecting the bigger gear teeth to, with the same size overall diameter, and to slow it down, you have to go with that, blah, blah, blah. I was expecting it to be geary, not to be smoother than the 7.1 Steez or the 6.3 to 1 Steezes, or even the 6.2 to 1 Bantam, or even the Metaniums that I have, and the other high-end reels that I have, and the other, and I have a good memory when it comes to how reels feel, fit, finish, and all that kind of good jazz, and how they cast amongst the hundreds of reels that I've used over the years. And I was surprised that this is at the top of that list. It really was. I was not expecting that. And one of the things I wanted to see is the missing bearing located at the level wind. I'm going to go into this one here just because. Bushing. Good. That's what it is. That's what we wanted to see. Now, one thing that's pretty cool about this reel, 2 things actually. So I'm going to pop out the handle post, handle shaft. Actually, there's a few things that are a little bit different compared to everybody else in the market. So when you look at a baitcaster and you handle one, a lot of times there's some in and out of the handle, right? Daiwa on their higher end reels, that goes away. You can hear that clacking. That's always been present on all Shimano reels. This reel, the higher end Daiwas doesn't exist. It just adds to the I like nice things, warm and fuzzies aspect, because when you're burning a bait in, you don't have any of that give or slop. And it translates into a better on the water experience. Nothing major, just an observation. Another thing that's cool, and somebody mentioned the other day in my community tab that there's a maintenance port on the Zillion. And I couldn't tell, it didn't seem like the gentleman who made the comment was English being his native tongue. I couldn't tell if it was a knock against Daiwa, saying that Shimano does it better there. And if you look here, comparing it to the Zillion, and I assume on the Metanium, it's a big block of metal here, right? this is just a somewhat flimsy, weight-saving piece of plastic. There is absolutely no negative to this, only positive in weight reduction. And just, you know, so I can show you guys, here's a Shimano. This is a Talica. You can see this thing's seen some shit. Probably saw 100 tuna over 100 pounds and countless tuna under 100 pounds. And this portion right here, it's literally just a thin piece of metal. It's just a cover. It serves no purpose other than to keep your finger out of there, to allow drainage while keeping big debris out. And that's it. There's so, you know, the gentleman that mentioned that, this is your maintenance port. It's just a floppy cover, but it's bolstered here, which is just to secure the frame, and it's already secured in 3 places, so it's good. So boom, secure. These are the securing bolt holes right here. This one, and this one. Yeah, so not an issue there. And this is where the, you know, where you put the leverage on the handle here. It's plenty bolstered here. You're not going to have any issues, really, because you can't really put any leverage on this single point, this single moment, because it's supported at the frame. So yeah, you're good. No harm, no foul. And we have a bushing here. So that's the difference in ball bearing count between the Steez being 12 and 8 in the Zillion. And in the past, you know, I like to see ball bearings, you know, on the levelwind. It's not a bad thing. I'm not a big fan of seeing them in saltwater reels because this area just gets soaked. And one thing I thought was pretty cool, and this is a design that was originally found in the Daiwa CT70 or 700, the Steez. If you look there, see a little pin right there? So there's an O-ring. Right. Okay, man. Now these picks are actually O-ring manipulation tools. And they were having difficulties manipulating. And you just kind of slide that pin out and it comes out, and then you can get into the pawl for your... Oh, come on. Just like so. That. And then the pawl drops out. What's nice about this design, and what makes a difference, that's one of the parts that seems to fail or need to be cleaned that can stop you in your tracks, right? How are you going to get this off, right? See this? This is the bantam, right? How are you going to get that cap off? How are you going to get a screw in there? You're going to use your pliers and hope that you can get it up and clear and not do any damage, and then get it out and clean it. Compare that to the Steez, okay? A little trick with the Steez is always bring it down halfway so you can access it. Little side quirk, little side benefit of the T-Wing. You can take a look at Aldebaran BFS. Kind of tricky to get in there. All you need with this guy here, so you get, you know, duck fuzz, you know, cattail fuzz, any type of vegetation that jams up your levelwind. Should it happen, all you need is a fish hook and you're in. Pull out the pawls, give it a little shake, make sure you don't drop anything, and you can get in there and do a little bit of cleaning. That's cool. But it's cool to see that they borrowed from the new Steez in a simple design, and it helps make it a little bit more compact, right? Now, in terms of anything unique and different in the frame, they have the hyper-armed housing, which hasn't shot me yet, so I'm happy to still be alive without any gunshot wounds. Ball bearing here for the base of the pinion, which the previous Zillion had. So this the ball bearing supports it down at the base, and then in the back of the spool here, Right, straightforward, same as the Steez, same as the old Zillion. Lots of reels do that, all the way down to a $99 Quantum Accurist PT. You look at the differences between, you know, the makeup of the pinion. It's very similar. Let's take a look at the Clicky Drag on the main gear. Looking for my little bearing puller that doubles as a pull anything that has an inner radius that you can grab onto. So right here, very straightforward. That was a spring-loaded pawl that when it's in the track here, clicks against the scalloped edge. Right? Now, let's take a look at the gear. This is the gear out of the Steez from a couple years ago. There'd definitely be quite a bit more teeth on the new Zillion. It's also a fairly deep cut, not like a micro module gear from Shimano. It's not as fine a pitch. You know, the micro module gear has far too many teeth. And when made out of aluminum, I hate to say it, but I swap out, or I've swapped out a few micro module aluminum gear sets from Shimano to brass. And after doing so, they have definitely lasted quite a bit longer. And I don't have any issues with aluminum gears. I love them in spinning reels. I love them in baitcasters. And Daiwa does excellent aluminum gears. They do. This gear is years old. It's seen hundreds of large fish, thousands of everyday mediocre, not picture-worthy fish, and it's like new. So I can't complain. So they're bringing over this reel with a brass geared variant in the United States. Hey, if the difference is only about a ½ ounce, I'm good with that. That's fine. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a little bit more than just an initial impressions unboxing video. It's, you know, still in its, you know, honeymoon phase. You know, I haven't found any problems with it, but I can't say anything negative about it. The thumb bar clutch release is spot on, just like what you want. The casting and braking is spot on, just like what you want. And you know what? I completely glossed over one of the coolest aspects that Daiwa's never even brought up in regards to something that's fairly unique, and I can only say I've seen it on a booster spool from them. This little rubber floppy washer here, right? And this little O-ring on the spool shaft. So see how it just grabs the spool and doesn't let go? Okay. That's going to help prevent that unnecessary wallering off center during the cast. Not a huge deal. It's just, you know, at least that's my impression of what they did here. Shimano uses a spring on some reels. So I don't know if one's better than the other, to be honest. But this right here, this silly little rubber washer, I can't even begin to tell you how significant that is, because there are so many people out there that go in here when they need to lubricate their reel. They shoot oil down this hole, right? Or they over lubricate the crap out of the pinion right here, right? Over time, and the other thing, there's another bonus too. There's two other bonuses. So I want to give you an idea what I'm going over here. See this right here? That's how it interacts with the pinion, right? That's going to prevent debris from getting in there. It's going to prevent excessive lubricant that shouldn't be there, that made its way through the pinion bore down here. from gumming up and gunking up your spool bearings. I swear, when I've worked on a lot of reels, a lot of conventionals that weren't mine, and I've seen just all over the inside of the spool flange and inside here just excessive lubrication. And it's not from them adding it drop by drop by drop by drop. It makes its way through. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. I can only assume that's what they were intending. I don't know what else and what other purpose that would serve. I mean, yeah, that's all I got there. To be quite honest with you. Does it run? It shouldn't run in there. I mean, it shouldn't make contact with anything in here, right? You can see right here. You can see that little washer there. I mean, when you cast, you don't want that spool touching. Let's put the side plate on. Let's do this the right way. Let's do this the right way. Guggen braid. Guggen braid. Guggen braid. Guggen braid. Okay, because what I wanted to check is I wanted to see if that pinion support bearing was going to rotate with this spool. So it does not. So it is completely free. The only thing I can figure is that it is indeed to keep that bearing clean. A cleaner bearing is a longer lasting bearing. There you have it, guys. This is the new Zillion. In my opinion, the most significant reel Daiwa's, or the most significant bait casting reel Daiwa's put out in a while. It slides in the premium threshold price range, but it's like, it's not a Fuego. It's not $100. It's not a Tattoola at $180. It's not a Steez at $500 and $700 for that new CT70. Oh my God. I would never pay $700 for that reel. Wow. Yeah. So, well, let me get this out of the way here. And if we have a few minutes left, let's go and take a gander at the Bantam. Again, this is its buddy. And it's a great reel. It's one of my favorites. Does everything phenomenally. It falls short, but not in a big way, in the maximum casting distance department for lures that can actually cast a long distance. That's the only place I really found that I wasn't the biggest fan of. Still did everything else right. This is my favorite jig reel. This is one of my favorite spinnerbait reels. This is one of my favorite RoboCop impersonating reels. And just like most Shimano bait casters, they're easy enough to get inside. No muss, no fuss. And pow. Extra beefy side plate. Let me make sure that this zero adjuster. Want to know what the first thing I do with the zero adjuster is? I adjust it. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I actually adjust the zero adjuster. No, I'm being serious. You laugh. All right. So, there seems to be a little bit more metal on the Shimano. Now, I feel as though I have to get a weight, but I don't really care enough to do that. So it's the overall weight. So we need to find out what part and component. We need to know exactly how many grams the spool is when it's, whatever. So let's take a peek at the main gear. So the top one is the Daiwa micromodule, the Hyper or whatever. The bottom is the Shimano. So even though Daiwa had kind of miniaturized their teeths, can't mess with Shimano in that department. But you can see just how much deeper the Daiwa tooth is. So what makes a strong gear tooth, a strong, long-lasting, durable gear tooth, has a lot to do with the geometry. Also, it has to do with how much surface area the two gear faces are, have when they're up against each other. You can't just have the tips coming across here. That's very weak. You have to have some depth, but you also have to have enough metal backing up each tooth, because when you're dealing with the baitcaster, every time you smash a hook set, that spool doesn't turn backwards until the pinion can overcome the friction on the drag washers. So there's a lot of pressure going on these, which is essentially why I've had failures and issues with the micromodule aluminum gears from Shimano. It's just that they couldn't handle the smashing hook set with 8 pounds of drag, 9 pounds of drag. They didn't shear off or crack or shatter, which is very rare. But they just they lost that feel. They got buzzy. I think that's the internet's most accurate adjective to describe, or adverb to describe a sensation on a fishing reel that I think I've ever heard. Buzzy. Like if you had a bee in a soda can and it was flying around inside that soda can and making that buzzing, that's kind of what you feel when you retrieve it. It really is. It's buzzy. Yeah. And I never got that out of the old Daiwa aluminum gears. I've gotten that on 2 sets of Shimanos on 2 different reels, replaced them with aluminum gear, or received replacement aluminum gears, had them go buzzy again, said screw it, ordered replacement brass gears, never had an issue again. So when I say 2, I mean 2 reels, 2 gear sets on each one. And you got to replace the pinion with the main gear. You never want to replace just one or the other, because it's going to wear in and form that same damaged pattern that it had before. So yeah. Anyway, what else we got? Yay, we dropped another screw. Yeah, everything's about expected. Very similar. Both excellent reels. Spectacular even. But yeah. I'm excited. I may actually pick up more Zillions. And guys, I cover a lot of reels. You guys don't even, I don't even put videos out on some things. It's one of those things where kind of, it's tough, because to put the amount of time and effort it takes to create a video like this. Now, I've gotten better. Usually I can do these in one take and I don't have to stop and back up and reassemble like I had to do years ago. But when it comes to, spending hours on the editor and, the follow-up with all the million questions, I have to be excited over the product to even want to bother. There are a lot of reels out there that I've used that I could really, after handling them and fishing them, I never even wanted to put another second of time looking at them, and they just go and collect dust, or I give them to a buddy, or I return them. I've done that a couple times, but yeah. So this one, 3rd time's a charm. I'm printing this. I can care less if it's good, bad, indifferent. If you guys think I rambled on forever, you guys are pissed off at me because I picked a Daiwa over Shimano. I don't care. This is my personal experience. This is what I found. If it triggers people on Tackle Tour, hey, I hope it does. So it's with all that being said, there's a guy that even said that barked at me in the comments section to stop saying it's with all that being said, because it's useless and pointless. It's a smooth transition. It makes it easier for me to think about what I'm going to say next in the time that it says, or in the time that it takes for me to say it's with all that being said, so I can think ahead. That's why I say it. I think that's why other people say it too. But anyway, thanks for showing up, guys. Thanks for every second of every minute you guys spend here. Without you, I wouldn't have a reason to even be here. And until next time, guys, I'll see you soon. I think next time we're going to be talking more BFS on the Zillion because we had some fun with that already. Take care, guys.